Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 and the final episode in the series in the possible evidence in the upcoming trial of Chad Guy Daybell. Now that Lori wants an appeal, we don't know that possibly they could be tried together. We don't know. So let's wait and see. And of course, even though Lori Vallow Daybell was found guilty of all the charges against her, Chad is still considered not guilty until proven guilty in a court of law. It's important to stop here if you haven't watched the first 3 episodes because they build on each other. So if you haven't, stop now and we'll be right here when you're ready. The police had done a welfare check on Lori's residence, couldn't find J.J. Vallow. Then they got a search warrant, and by that time, Chad and Lori had landed off to Hawaii. They were by themselves. No JJ, no Tylee, no Alex, none of the other group, just the 2 of them. On November 28, 2019, Colby sent his mother a series of emails. One read, "Mom, you changed your number. What's going on?" On December 2nd, she responded by writing, "Hi, Colby. I need you to know that we are safe and happy. I know this sounds confusing to you, but I need you to trust me. That although there are wicked people trying to cause harm, that Jesus is on our side and taking care of us. Although we may be out of touch for a while, I will continue to help you. I love you all so much. The car and the car insurance will be paid for you so you can drive it with no worries. The phones will also be good. You are precious to your mama. I love you so much. Kisses to Riley," I think that's his newborn child, "and you and Kelsey. I hope to talk to you soon. I will continue to pray blessings on your family constantly." It's clear by Venmoing him money through Tylee's account and by giving him the car and paying for the car insurance that she was trying to keep him sweet. He responded in writing, "Okay, Mom, I love you. Please be smart and take care of the kids and yourself. I don't know what's going on, but I'm praying for all of you. I'm mad and sad, but I know I can't control anything going on. Please be safe, all of you. We love you, and if you can help us at all through Venmo too, that would help. I'm going to be getting a second job, yada, yada, yada." Colby wasn't the only one being iced out. Melanie Gibb said that she received an email on or about November 29th, 2019, showing Chad and Lori being married on a beach in Hawaii and that she was not privy to the ceremony. They were still buying burner phones. Alex Cox activated a burner phone on December 3rd, and on December 4th, Zulema told Alex that Raphael, who was Chad Daybell, got a new burner phone number. So on December 5th, Alex contacts someone labeled Guy, we know that's Chad's middle name, and said, "Hey, it's Ray Romano." But Chad did not respond to Alex, which I guess started freaking him out. Zulema told authorities at some point Alex was talking about maybe he was being set up to be a fall guy or their fall guy, so he was starting to doubt them. Justin Lum spoke with an anonymous source. "Hanging by the pool. While the FBI and Rexburg police have been investigating the disappearance of 7-year-old JJ and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, I've learned when their mother Lori arrived in Princeville, Hawaii with her husband Chad Daybell. A source who wants to be kept anonymous for safety reasons tells me the newlywed couple moved into this condo around December 10th, 2019. The condo is located in a gated community called Villas on the Prince. It sits on the Prince Golf Course. The source tells me Lori and Chad had been seen hanging by the pool several times, but other than that, they weren't seen around the neighborhood much. The condo has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. It is about 1,700 square feet and selling for $719,000. My source says Chad and Lori came off as pleasant and nice. and there was no indication they had kids with them. I'm told they have not been back to the condo since being served, contacted by the Kauai police and the Kauai Beach Resort. Cost to rent this kind of condo? Source says $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So the Kauai resident spotted Lori and Chad around the pool, seemingly without a care in the world. And in my opinion, I'm sure Tammy Daybell's life insurance money was helping to fund this Hawaiian lifestyle. I mean, it's funny how it was supposed to be the end of the world, and here they are going to the beach and to the pool and working on their tans and their fitness routines. So much for the end times and for gathering souls for the Church of the Firstborn. And in the video that I'm not going to play here, you'll see Chad and Lori's demeanor seeing what these documents entail. You know, wanting them, telling her she needs to produce the children. Chad doesn't say, "What children? I didn't know you didn't have children," or look extremely distressed or anything. He looks a little worried, but he doesn't, there's no outcry. There's no upset. That's important. His demeanor is important. He seems to know. December 11th, 2019. Tammy Daybell's body is exhumed for autopsy in the early morning. The autopsy is completed the same day and she is reinterred, and then those autopsy results were sealed. The family was not told ahead of time, so it was a surprise to them. And then the next day, so it had come out that Tammy had been exhumed. The next day, Alex dies. Examiners later find both an audio file and a Word document on the Lori First Style account of a blessing given to Alex Cox by Chad Daybell with Lori present. And in the audio file, Chad states that it's being given to the Church of the Firstborn. He talks about Alex's multiple creations and being a warrior who, quote, assisted us in ways that can never be repaid. There's a lot of crying that can be heard in the audio. It's very odd. It's very foreboding. He's been married to Zulema Pestenes for about 2 weeks. And allegedly, according to her, Alex began feeling poorly and Chad gave him a quote-unquote priesthood blessing over the phone. At some point, Zulema is advised to go home and that Alex is unwell. She arrives to find Alex unconscious in the upstairs bathroom at her house in Gilbert, Arizona. Her son was there, found Alex, and called 911 for her boyfriend. See, the son doesn't even know that Alex is married to his mother and has taken his mother's last name. Zulema advised she received a text message from a family friend telling her she needed to go home and check on Alex. Zulema said that's when she got her son to go check on Alex and found Alex in a bad state. You can listen to the 911 call. It's not real eye-opening except for the fact that the son doesn't even seem to know Alex very well at all and is loath to get involved with the CPR. Zulema said he hadn't been feeling very well over the past few days. She also said Alex had been suffering shortness of breath with slightest of movements. Yeah, do you imagine the hearing about Tammy Daybell being exhumed might give you a panic attack and make you not feel well? Maybe bring on heart problems? Alex dies in the hospital from a bilateral pulmonary embolism. Is deemed natural causes. And since the police asked to search her home, Zulema says, "Am I a suspect?" Essentially, why are you searching the house when he's not pronounced dead until he was at the hospital? Zulema did not tell the main Cox family of his death for 7 days. In my opinion, with Alex's comment to Zulema about being a fall guy and with his finding out about the exhumation of Tammy, which I assume he did, I think that he took one for the team or was poisoned somehow. That's just my opinion, and I could be completely wrong. How this inures to Chad, not at all. They have no evidence to tie Chad in with the death of Alex, as far as I'm aware, other than Chad giving this priesthood blessing over the phone. And December 20th, 2019 is when the ish hits the fan. The Rexburg Police Department post regarding the missing endangered children, J.J. Joshua Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and the case makes national news. In my opinion, there's nothing worse than having a missing child and a neglectful parent, or one that seems like they don't care. Like, say, Casey Anthony. Seemed like she didn't care. They become almost America's missing kids, and everybody goes crazy looking for them, looking for every little bit of detail, going on the internet, searching for anything posted, looking at, under all the bushes. They become America's children. It becomes national news, and it becomes a feeding frenzy. And that's what happened. Then on December 21st, 2019, pictures of Lorivallow Daybell and Chad Daybell are shown, and we're told that they're called persons of interest regarding the missing children. And then everybody's looking for them, and they're found in Hawaii. And Nate Eaton of East Idaho News finds them and tails them and gets them on camera multiple times with his microphone in their face, asking them where the children are, and you get to see their demeanor, and it isn't good. So the police were doing interviews. They were trying to find the kids both on the mainland and in Hawaii, and they spoke with Colby again. On November 23rd, they got in contact with Colby, and they said, I had previously advised Colby of the preliminary presence of blood located in the Nissan Rogue, and they wanted to obtain buccal swabs from him, from Kelsey, and I think it's from their kid, for possible DNA comparison to try to see whose blood was in the Nissan Rogue. Concerning the Nissan Rogue, Colby estimated that early to mid-November, Lori contacted him by telephone and told him Alex would be visiting a female friend in Arizona, and that Alex would be driving the Rogue to Arizona to give him the car to use. So that's how he came in contact with it, and that's how long he'd had it. He advised that the telephone number that he had used, that he had last contacted her with, was no longer in service. On January 3rd of 2020, FBI and local law enforcement served a search warrant on Chad Daybell's Rexburg home. But it's winter, and the ground is snowy, and they collected 43 items of evidence from inside the property, electronics, and the like. And the state starts testing the debris found on the tools from Chad's barn for DNA. And on January 25th, 2020, Lorivallow Daybell is served by Kauai Police Department regarding the Madison County, Idaho Department of Health and Welfare Protection Order, wherein she is ordered to produce the children within 5 days. On January 26, 2020, the feds serve a search warrant on the Daybell's rental cars and the condo, and they find the following: Tylee's Visa credit card, a birth certificate for Tylee Ryan, birth certificate for Kanan Trahan, that's JJ's original name and birth certificate, the revised birth certificate for Joshua Jackson Vallow, multiple death certificates for Leland Charles Vallow, marriage certificate for Chad and Lori, rental agreement, JJ's phone, JJ and Tylee's social security cards, and various phones and computers and laptops, or like iPads. All the identification for the kids, but no kids. Lori fails to appear in Idaho and fails to produce the children. The Daybell children gave an interview to 48 Hours, and the interview asked them, and I'm paraphrasing, like, once the missing kids made the national news, then the public was made aware of Lori Vallow and Chad. Didn't you ever ask your father where are the children? And if so, what did he say? And Emma answered that they said, just show the kids. And that her father replied, we can't for their safety. So that's incriminating. That's implying knowledge. We can't show you the kids. We can't show you where the kids are at for your safety. He knows something. On February 20th, 2020, Lorivallow Daybell is arrested on the Madison County, Idaho warrant of 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children and extradited back to the mainland. Note she did not fight extradition back to the mainland. Allegedly, Mark Means is both the attorney for Lori and Chad as a couple, and then later Mark Means will be Lori's attorney for a duration of time, and Chad will engage the services of John Pryor. But at this point, Lori is the only one in trouble. And then D-Day occurs on June 9th, 2020. Chad is at his residence. I believe he's sleeping. It's early in the morning. And a search warrant was served by the FBI and all the agencies on the Daybell residence and the property. So 3 to 4 acres. I believe one of his children, I believe it was Garth, answered the door, and they roused Chad to let him know that his property was being searched. He was free to be there as long as he didn't, participate, and he chose to stick around. Note that the FBI had prepped 1 week to search the Daybell property using satellite imaging and then that cast data, which led to the priority areas they wanted to search. And they end up performing a grid search on these previously determined cell site hits. An officer was assigned to watch Chad while the search was ongoing, and he did. Ray Hermosillo testified that when the police showed up, Chad immediately called his lawyer. He also testified as to Chad's behavior once the investigators and the authorities were digging or getting towards certain areas, and that he was watching them. Just so happened that he ends up getting a phone call too from Lori in the jail. The cellmate recorded jail call between Lori and Chad as the authorities are actively outside searching the property will likely be placed into evidence. The call goes to show how guilty Chad sounds, how defeated he sounds. He's telling Lori that Mark Means will be likely calling her, in my opinion, because he knows they will find the kids this time. Chad tells Lori, quote, "They're searching the property, so Mark Means will be calling you. Will be talking to you." Chad sounds in very low spirits and even doubts they will be able to speak if Lori is to call him later. And so to me, the tone and the content speaks to consciousness of guilt. At Lori's trial, Detective Rich Schmidt testified that he was the officer that was assigned to watch Chad during the serving of the search warrant. He said, quote, "At one point in time when the search dogs were on the scene and Chad got out of his vehicle that was parked in the driveway in front of his house, they were searching the area where JJ's remains were later found, and Chad was facing towards that direction," end quote. Then Chad will proceed to try to drive away once they start digging. So then they arrest Chad and proceed to take him into custody. And allegedly, according to Emma, or one of the girls, told him that human remains had been found on the property. FBI Special Agent Steve Daniels testified at Lori Vallow's trial about burial site number 1. He said it was a raised berm by a tree with shorter grass compared to the surrounding grass. He said that's a telltale sign of a clandestine grave. After the first layer of soil was removed, large rocks were revealed which had been placed in a precise manner. Sorry for that typo. Below the rocks were boards which were also appearing to be strategically placed. Steve Daniels said, quote, "I probably excavated approximately 5 to 7 burials. Out of all those burials, this is the most precise. Somebody's taken the most effort to bury these remains," end quote. And I think the takeaway from that is this wasn't Alex that did this, it was Chad. Under the rocks were planks, and under the planks was more soil and the intact body of JJ wrapped in plastic. And in my opinion, the proof of the premeditation, Alex Cox was on the Daybell property for only 17 minutes on the day JJ was buried there. And in my opinion, there was not enough time for Alex to dig a grave under a tree with a well-established root system, find the boards in the Daybell shed that would fit to the size or make them fit, find and arrange rocks and line them up on a buried body, and then backfill everything into the grave. So from drop off to driving off, I don't think that Alex could do that in 17 minutes alone. At Lori Vallow's trial, Detective Ray Hermosillo testified about JJ's grave. He said that the boards found in the grave were similar to the boards found in the garage on the Daybell property. While they were not an exact match, the boards were similar. And so my note would be, would Alex know about the boards and the implements in the Chad Daybell shed? Yeah, I don't think so. This is the last known photo of JJ. It was recovered from Lori's iCloud account. Let's keep in mind, this is who we're talking about. Also, if you get triggered, this is the time to click off. Detective Hermosillo testified at Lori's trial about what he experienced at the medical examiner's office. He described JJ's body, quote, "I saw a little boy in red pajamas. He had a white plastic bag around his head, several layers of duct tape from his chin to his forehead area. His arms were duct taped with several layers of duct tape. His arms were folded across his chest. His feet were also duct taped and bound. He had a white and blue child's blanket placed on top of him. He still had on his pull-up nighttime diaper. There was some visible bruising on his arms that the medical examiner had pointed out to us." Dr. Garth Warren, forensic pathologist, conducted the autopsy on JJ. It took 4 hours. He concluded that JJ died from asphyxia, from the plastic bag over his head and the duct tape over his mouth. He also noted additional wounds. For example, JJ also had a scratch-like abrasion on the left side of his neck and bruises on his left arm and hemorrhages on his right thumbnail. His ankles were likely bruised by the duct tape. To me, this clearly indicates a struggle. And when they removed the duct tape and sent it away from testing, a hair was found stuck to it. The test results showed that that hair was a match to Lori Vallow Daybell with a probability of 1 in 71 billion. Let's talk about Tylee's grave. Again, this is her last known picture of Tylee, so if you're triggered about hearing about graves and autopsies, now's the time to click off. Burial site number 2. The clandestine grave in front of a dog statue. They found 2 vertebrae. So they got some earth moving equipment and they located a mess. Special Agent Steve Daniels testified at Lori's trial about the stark differences between burial site number 1 and burial site number 2. Tylee's area was a mass of disarticulated organic material, while JJ's burial was coordinated. He stated there was, quote, "such a big contrast for us as a team going from JJ's, how precise everything was placed, versus Tylee's melted, charred mass, how that was placed in that burial," end quote. And I say, note, Chad had more time to dispose of Tylee and likely learned burning human remains in the fire pit did not work because Tylee was killed first. At Lori's trial, Detective Schmidt testified to uncovering some of Tylee's remains, and that specifically some of her teeth and burned flesh they were found in the fire pit area here. Note, these were Tylee's remains, and it would appear that she was burned there at the pit, in my opinion, likely on more than one occasion, not just that first day. But then the remainder was transferred to the burial spot. Alex Cox did not have the time and the opportunity to get Tylee into this state that she was finally recovered. Dr. Garth Warren, who is the pathologist, testified at Lori's trial about Tylee. Her remains were received in 3 separate sealed bags, and that her autopsy took 1 week because she was just a collection of bones, burned flesh, debris, mud, and dirt. Her death was ruled homicide by unspecified means, pretty much due to the dismemberment. FBI agent Douglas Helapaska testified at Lori's trial about the tool marks on Tylee's bones, the bones that were left, and he testified that Tylee's hip bones had signs of stabbing and chopping type actions, and he took castings of the wounds, but he wasn't able to determine the exact tools as he was not provided any for comparison. But he speculated it was a bladed tool like a hatchet or a machete, and other marks seemed to show a weapon with a serrated edge using chopping actions. Tylee's bones bore marks of knife, hatchet, and something with a serrated teeth marks like a cleaver or a machete. At Lori Vallow's trial, Special Agent Dr. Christensen, who's a forensic anthropologist for the FBI, testified that Tylee's bones had thermal damage and some carnivore activity on the femur. She found sharp force trauma on 3 of Tylee's bones, the left and right hip bone, and the pelvis, which were not associated with dismemberment. Not. So the sharp force trauma was in the pelvic region and more associated with a stabbing. I want to know who stabbed Tylee in the pelvis and why. Catherine Dace, Idaho State Police forensic biologist, reviewed 18 hand tools seized from the Daybell property, JJ's autopsy samples, and duct tape from JJ's burial, among other items. And at Lori's trial, she testified that there was some soft texture on the backside of a shovel from the Daybell property. It was tested for DNA, which matched Tylee Ryan with a probability of 604 octillion. So essentially, Tylee's decomposing matter was found on Chad's shovel. I believe it was in the garage or his barn. She also looked at material located on a pickaxe from the Daybell property. In the center of the pickaxe was a dark area with an oily texture, and it was tested for DNA, which matched Tylee Ryan. In addition, the handle of the pickaxe matched Tylee Ryan. Since Tylee did not bury herself, whomever buried her got her DNA on their hands and on the pickaxe as well. Food for thought. If Alex is on the property, the Daybell property, for only 2 hours, according to the cast analysis on this day, would he put Chad Daybell's tools back in the shed? Wouldn't a killer who was using someone else's property without permission, like assuming Alex snuck onto the property and did this deed in 2 hours, burning and all this stuff, wouldn't they bring their own tools and then get rid of them? I mean, how did Alex have time to do all this to Tylee in such a short amount of time while his phone's there at the property? It just doesn't make sense that he did this by himself. It doesn't make sense. Tara Martinez, forensic scientist at the Idaho State Police, processed latent, those are unseen prints from the crime scene. At Lori's trial, she testified that she was able to match some latent prints. For example, one latent print on a black plastic bag covering JJ matched the right little finger of Alex Cox, and another print on a section of the black plastic matched the right palm of Alex Cox. It's clear that Alex definitely was involved in these murders. But Chad's kids aren't buying it. They don't believe it. They believe he's been set up or framed. The Daybell children gave an interview with 48 Hours, and Emma argued that her father did not dig the grave because, as a professional grave digger, he would have dug a deeper grave. However, it could be argued, in my opinion, that Chad and his co-conspirators did not dig a deeper grave because it was not meant to be permanent, like Tylee's grave wasn't meant to be permanent. Emma also did not take into account that when her father, in my opinion, was doing official work, he had the proper tools, but was not in a hurry or worrying about being seen when he was doing official work. But in doing this act, in my opinion, he was in a hurry, he was worried about being seen, and so on. Emma went on to show the reporter where Tylee had been buried. I don't recall if this was from the preliminary hearing or just an interview, but one neighbor, Matt Price, told the police that he asked Chad's son Garth about a gunshot he heard, and that Garth had told him that Chad had shot the raccoon, which we had talked about before because Chad had crowed that day about, hey, I got that raccoon. And that Price's wife noticed that the fire pit had not been used very frequently, but then over those months there had been multiple bonfires. So this is some of the evidence that Chad will have to likely wrangle with if he goes to trial. And we know that Lori was found guilty of all the charges against her. I buy the theory of the state's case, the theory that it really was about the sexual bond between them, and they wanted to have their power and their own little world, and that the other people in their lives at that point were obstacles. The children were obstacles. Chad's wife was an obstacle. Charles Vallow was an obstacle. And this is really, truly what they wanted right here. This is the embodiment of it. And in my opinion, the theory that Chad was some dupe who was framed just doesn't work, because he can't blame all the religious teachings on Lori. He authored the books. He had the publishing house. He's the one that brought in the light dark scale. He was one with the thin veil that allowed him to see into the afterlife. He was the one that they used to check on the zombies. He was the final say so a lot of the time. So it just doesn't wash that he's some duped person who was framed. I hope you found this series enlightening. If you like this video, please check out my other videos. I have a series on Adam Walsh, and I have a long series on Ted Bundy. So you might find those interesting if you like this kind of stuff. So without further ado, have an excellent day. Bye.